Hi everybody, it's Claire back with another art journal video, and this one is another project using some of Dina's latest release. So this time I'm playing in the small craft journal, and as a bit of a change I'm going in with some white gesso to start off with, and I'm just pulling that across the centre of my page. So the reason for the white gesso is because I was going to use the neon paints just as they are, and had a feeling that, well, obviously it would, wouldn't it? The colour of the craft would definitely affect the way that the colours sing from the neon paints. And also this craft paper, as you know, is quite thirsty. So I decided I would add some white gesso just to try and help the neon paints be as true to their actual colour as they could be. Here I'm just selecting a piece of the new collage paper, which is called, the pack is called Grids. And while the gesso is still wet, I'm going in with some matte medium and I'm just sticking some pieces of collage paper on, and as you can see some of the gesso is travelling over the top, and that really doesn't bother me, that's fine. That just helps those pieces of collage paper be a little bit more subtle on that background. You can even stick pieces of collage paper in using paint and gesso if you want to, or gesso. But because it was wet, it just created a really nice sheer effect over those pieces of collage. So I'm just going in and layering up some pieces of collage onto that band of white gesso across the centre of my page, just to break it up and create a little bit of initial interest on there. I do like to use a bit of text on my journal pages, so I went through my stash of Dina's collage papers and found one that had some text on it. Obviously, if I hadn't had that, then I could have just as easily stamped some text stamp onto some collage paper and had the same effect, or stamped straight onto the page. But yeah, you can see that just adds another dimension of interest. It's mixing up the marks that are there on the background, and I think just adding that bit of writing onto there just kind of changes it up as well, how it looks. So stuck those down and then gave it a really good dry just to make sure it was ready for the next stage. So then I'm using one of Dina's round brushes, and I've just put a blob of that neon stoked pink paint at the left hand side, and I'm just pulling it across the centre of my page, and you can see how bold that is. You can also really see as well here again how translucent it is. It isn't at all, it doesn't behave at all like the heavy body paints. It's completely different. So here I'm mixing Bodacious and Stoked together. I did spend a bit of time playing with mixing these neon paints together, and you can create some beautiful colours. And you can see here this creates a really nice, almost like a magenta-y sort of purpley pinky colour. So then I'm just pulling that across the centre of my page too, washing my brush in between each time and giving it a little bit of a dry, because these round brushes do carry quite a lot of water. So here I'm mixing Stoked and a little bit of Legit. I'm just going to give those a little mix around, and then I'm going to pull that across the page as well. Look, that's another beautiful purpley colour. Really pretty. So it's worth having a play with those, just mixing those colours together as well and seeing what you can come up with. Okay, so then I am using this stencil. I can never remember what this one's called. If you do know, just pop it in the comments below. But this is great for just breaking up the background, but because of those circles on the stencil, you will be left with some lovely, nice shapes of the background colour peeping through, as you can see. But the stenciling around those circles just breaks up the background in a nice way. So this is one of my favourite stencils for adding some large stenciling onto a background. And you notice here I'm making sure that it's touching the top and bottom and sides of my page, although it isn't all connected properly all the way across. Okay, so once that was dry, I'm then using the Coasters 2 stencil, and I'm using a bit of turquoise paint. I think I've just kept the blending tool on there, so it's turquoise plus a little bit of white. And I am going in and using that to add some more stenciling. I said white, actually, I think the colour that I've used over the top of the neon stripe is actually heather. Pretty sure it isn't white, it's not that bold. And then I decided I was going to add some splatters onto my page as well. So here I'm using the stoked neon paint just to add some bold splatters onto my page as well. Really effective. Okay, so next I'm going in with the mantra stencil, and I've got a little bit of black paint on my blending tool. You can see it's smudged a little bit at the top, but I'm really not worried about that, it doesn't matter. And I'm just adding a little bit of contrast onto my page now. So I'm using the stencil with the black just to add another element here. So I've got the bold neons, I've got some of the lighter colours with the white gesso underneath, and then here is a little bit more contrast using that black with the stenciled words as well. So this is one of Dina's older stamp sets with these fabulous abstract figures, and I was thinking I was going to use maybe 3 figures because, you know, odd numbers work really well. So just having a play with what was going to work well, and I decided that I really liked this particular figure with the long legs and that I would use just him on my page, him slash her, don't know, just this figure, let's say, on my page. And I'm going to stamp it straight on to my page using some black archival ink. I'm going to stamp 3 of them at different heights, which means on one of them it may well have no feet. So once I've stamped them in place and then given it a quick dry, I then go in with some black paint and just fill those figures in so that they are quite bold against the rest of the page. So once I've done that, I'm then just adding some black along the bottom of my page just to kind of ground those figures, because 1 or 2 of them, they look like they're stood on their tiptoes and they're kind of floating around. So just making it so they're a bit more grounded and they don't look like they're trying to jump off the page. I had some black paint left over, so just going in and adding some more black splatters onto my page as well. So all the time I'm just building up the layers of interest on my page, and splatters is just such a great way to create a lovely effect with very little effort, really. And then I am, of course, using some of the typed ledger papers just to add a quote. As I've said so many times, there are so many quotes on those ledger papers. You can always find the right quote. There is always just the right one. And I usually just, if I'm doing a page where I haven't got a theme in mind or a quote I want to use, I just look for the one that really speaks to me and will pop that on my page. So then using my Signo Uniball in white, I'm just outlining these 3 figures with some rough sketchy lines, which again, just bringing that contrast. Sorry about that. Alexa is very insistent that there's a notification. I'm just outlining those to bring some contrast again onto those figures. And then doing a little bit of journaling onto the figures too, using the white pen. So this has the effect of breaking up those bold images And again, it's a great place to do a little bit of journaling as well. So then I'm just outlining those words of text on my page using my Posca pen. And that is pretty much it for this page. So just letting those neon paints really sing and using them on their own. They work really well, particularly if you mix them together. And what makes a page like this really pop is adding those elements of contrast, so using the black and white, the dark and light colours alongside. So I hope you found some inspiration from watching this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.